Well, I went and got one.
Aw, you shouldn't.
Yeah, maybe not, because it's damn expensive. This is a lens I intend to use on closer distances and primarily in low light, such as indoor sports and concerts. But it's summer right now here in the tiny kingdom of Denmark. There's a lot of light and people are trying their best to avoid being indoors. I got the lens last week and I was very keen on trying it out in the real world as quickly as possible. So I got in contact with OBVK, Odense Beachvolley Club in Danish is with a K. And I asked them if I could come by and photograph an afternoon event. Luckily, they didn't know me beforehand, so they let me join them, and it turned out to be a couple of really nice hours. Full disclosure, this is my own lens. I bought it myself. I'm not sponsored by anyone. Neither Sony nor any other company really cares about me and my 30 subscribers. But who the hell wants 579,000 anonymous subscribers anyway, with companies breathing down your neck, trying to give or loan you stuff all the time? It's much nicer. A small exclusive group.
The best of the best of the best, sir!
A beach volley court is 16 meters long and 8 meters wide. It's almost 18 meters diagonally, and one half is a bit more than 11 meters diagonally. But why all these numbers, Thomas? Well, they're nice to keep in mind when getting to know a new lens with a new focal range. How close can a person get for a good close-up, and how far away can they be whilst you're still able to get nice full-size images? It was my first time photographing beach volley, and of course it takes some experience to know where to position yourself and how to track the players. But I still managed to get some nice photographs, and the lens just performed excellent. Despite the harsh lighting conditions, there was still no flare and great contrast, even in the dark areas. It turns out that the 50 to 150mm focal range is just perfect for beach volley and the size of the court they are playing on. In some situations, it might even be just a bit too long, but I moved back a little and had more flexibility. The high aperture is definitely amazing and produces stunning images straight from f2, but on a very bright day like I had, it's not necessary for fast shutter speed. I had the camera set to aperture priority, which I don't think I've ever tried before, at f2 and at a fixed ISO of 250, which is the base ISO of the Sony A9 III, and at a variable shutter speed. The shutter speed varied from about 1/5000th of a second to 1/25,600th of a second. That's equivalent to more than 1/10,000th of a second at ISO 100. So if your camera doesn't go any faster than 1/8000th of a second, you will need to get filters to keep the aperture wide open on bright days. Build quality is excellent and definitely on par with any other Sony GM lens. The image quality is as amazing as you would expect. I'm not good at elaborate pixel peeping reviews, and I don't put many thoughts into it. When buying a high-end lens from any major camera brand, the images will be high-end. What I care about when shooting sports and events in the real world is the practical applications and the best possible image with the best possible autofocus. And the Sony 50 to 150 f2 definitely doesn't disappoint. In continuous autofocus, it just shifts focus instantaneously, and the tracking will stick like glue. The lens doesn't have built-in image stabilization, but it wasn't something I noticed during the couple of hours I spent with the beach volley players. Perhaps it is more noticeable if you're using the lens for video, but I don't intend to. The lens doesn't have room for teleconverters on the back. I know that there are many opinions about teleconverters, but I like them. They can make any focal range more flexible, and even though you might lose 1 or 2 stops of light, and your image might get a tiny bit softer, I believe that the versatility in many cases can outweigh those issues. If a new type of teleconverters were available for the Sony 50 to 150 f2, you'd get 3 very usable lenses in one. a 50 to 150 mm f2 for indoor sport and low light, the traditional 70 to 200 with a minuscule increase in range, and a 100 to 300 mm f4, which would be light, compact, and very suitable for outdoor sports, where you most often will have more light anyway. Canon has a 100 to 300 mm f2.8 lens, which is a lens I'm very jealous of and one lens I miss in the Sony lineup. But it's a very expensive lens. The Sony 50 to 150 f2 plus a 2x teleconverter would be one stop of light slower, but less than half the price and even more versatile. Please, Sony, teleconverters. Yeah, well, they're probably not watching anyway. Some are calling this lens a prime zoom lens and are debating whether it can replace prime lenses. When it comes to the bokeh, they're probably somewhat right. There isn't much difference. But I'm not buying a fast aperture lens primarily for bokeh. You can get bokeh with virtually any lens, especially if it has a longer focal range, if you place the camera and the subject and the background accordingly. I'm buying fast aperture lenses for the best possible low light performance, which didn't really mean jack though, photographing volleyball players on a very bright day. But a couple of weeks ago, I went to photograph a birthday. Perhaps if you have watched any of my few previous videos, you'll remember the drummer in the band Luciani, Jacob the Kid. Yeah! Well, Jacob the Kid turned 40 just recently, and he had spent the best part of a year planning and organizing a birthday festival called 40 Festival or 40 Festival. He had gone all in, and if you ever want to host a similar event, you should get in touch with Jacob and get him to help you out. Jacob had invited me to come photograph the event, and I gladly accepted the opportunity to play around with my gear and give Jacob some nice memories from this very special day. During daytime, my zoom lenses did most of the work very well. The brightest lens I own is a 50mm f1.2 prime, and I used it during the day for some nice close-ups. But it really proved its worth in low light conditions, where it's still 1 1/3 of a stop faster than an f2. I don't expect to replace my 50mm f1.2 with the Sony 50 to 150mm f2 anytime soon. Of course, everyone still loves a beautiful background separation, which can accentuate a subject. It's very doable at f2, but it can't do as well in low light as an f1.4 or 1.2. I wish I could have brought the 50 to 150mm f2 to the 40 Festival, but next week I am photographing a large event in a city called Vejle here in Denmark, both during daytime and also after sunset. I'll definitely bring my new 50 to 150, but also Old Faithful here, my 70 to 200mm f2.8 GM2. And I'll do a practical comparison between the two, from out there, the real world, to in here, YouTube. Well, I had a great time photographing the nice people at OBVK, Odense Beach Volley Club, and I would like to thank them very much for letting me visit. Everyone was glad to share knowledge about their sport, and very approachable and talkative.
Che bello che stai facendo delle foto e dei video di beach volley.
Sì.
E oggi il tempo è bellissimo, quindi perfetto.
Sì. I use Google Translate to get all the details correct, and I find no reason not to trust Google. If you're into volleyball and you like having sand everywhere, you should definitely check them out. As usual, please stick around just a little bit longer for a few of my top picks from that nice afternoon with the volleyball players. See you around.